You know what I mean?
I think it's time for you to hear the truth.
Every nation, in every region, now has a decision to make.
They don't like my songs. Bush came to my yard, he wants to take me on. Phone the most high, I'm like, yo, it's on. Devil's in my face, Pop, don't be long.
All you need is faithful souls. Have no fear, my son, my kingdom you will own. 400 years, no knowledge of your home. Now is your chance to reclaim your throne.
Okay, Pop, yeah, no doubt. I buzz you back once I've taken him out. But he reckons I got weapons, what's he talking about? I don't like the way the devil's running his mouth.
Now watch that, it's just an excuse. See, they don't like you, son, cause you tell the truth.
Hey, yo, Pop, United Nations turned up. They wanna search my yard till I them up.
Nah, son, you leave them to me. Now you deal with that caution, calling pal Fassi. I got fire for them backside for those who oppose me. Hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes, you'll see.
Exodus, the devil we no like. See me left from round upon the star line. Sir Marcus Garvey upon my mind. So me lay upon the black star line. Exodus, the devil we no like. See me left from round upon the star line. Sir Marcus Garvey upon my mind. So me lay upon the black star line.
I'm interested in the truth, and the truth is what I will pursue.
We have to recognize who our major enemy is.
The biggest challenge before you right now is, who is the enemy?
Life is becoming increasingly miserable for everybody. But when they find out who it is that's causing the trouble,
I will tell you what the mainstream media will not tell you.
That the Jewish people control the media.
People need to get out of denial very quickly, because your children are being poisoned, you're being poisoned, children are being indoctrinated and programmed and turned into software programs at school, you're being poisoned in the air, you've been poisoned from the sky, poisoned in your food, poisoned in your water, poisoned by vaccine. How bad does it have to get before people in vast numbers realize that the world ain't like they thought it was?
I'm talking to you.
The principle and the idea was divide and rule, divide and conquer.
$1 billion a week spent on war. 15 million Americans are homeless in the street. We can build Iraq and Afghanistan, but leave you with nothing.
You have to come together. There has to be a foundation of unity before you to get anywhere, especially if you're black in this country.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing else.
I want you to hear me. Speak the truth regardless of circumstance and stand up on the truth from the cradle to the grave.
Rebels on some dirty way. Yo, the murder was the case they gave. And it was just the other day when they stepped out the caucus man in cage. The murder's undercover blood. But guess what? They slipped up. The people are starting to wake up, and as soon as we get together, they ain't here to apologize for the outcry while we're on the genocide. Till today, from the time we arrived, Mother Africa is still dripping blood from her eyes. Ain't tiptoeing around my words. I'ma tell the truth till it hurts, and I'ma keep spreading love to the peace. But right now, I'ma drop the truth on the verse, and I'ma dismiss unrighteousness. My backside, they can kiss, they can't handle this. I got a long list of braves with power and fists who insist government's taking a piss.
Exodus, the devil we no like. See we left from round upon the star line. Sir Marcus Garvey upon my mind. So we lay upon the black star line. Exodus, the devil we no like. See we left from round upon the star line. Sir Marcus Garvey upon my mind. So we lay upon the black star line.
Come, let me bust the things for all you hustling. I might scuff your Tims how I'm busting in the fight. I'm struggling on some other thing. Head wrap and skull cap, I call my brother king. Wagwanin and you know that. It's like a prison wing how we keep the show pack. I don't hold back. Radio, play my whole track. Most cats listen close as phone taps. There's no black in the Union Jack. Britain flows pierce ears like guns with studs in them. Count bars like you're stuck in prison. Count scars on a body that's slug-ridden. It's the fusion of the ease, brews and ganja, giving these youths delusions of grandeur. And only a few who've left to have a stretch on the psychiatric wing return to the manor. I'm the one that rap for them people suffering. Try function in a world that's got no love for them. Enough of them would rather vote for Big Brother than vote for them hypocrites that's in the government. F*** them then. It's Emmanuel and Brother Ben.
Yeah. Exodus, the
Built
devil
into your environment. If there's something wrong, you don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind.
You think the US don't have weapons of mass destruction?
You ain't know this is gonna work. It's a general idea. With who? I'm working on it.
Jumbo Otep Peace Lama. This is Ferrarity Radio. My name is Sayshara, and this is the Sunday Interactive Talk Show. Okay, so I'm here for the next couple of hours and beyond, and I'm always going to be interested in hearing what you're saying. So I'm going to give out the telephone numbers for those people just locked in and tuned in here on a lovely Sunday afternoon. The numbers are 073 054 17668. And my topics, I'm going to go really in because I haven't got a lot of time, okay? I'm going to go in straight away. But my topics are all about what I was talking about last week, generally speaking, the Windrush Scandal versus the Windrush generation, okay? So we're talking about that period here. And this is going to be like a part 3. There's so much information, and I feel like I really need to hear from people as well. They need to really respond to what I'm talking about because it's a really serious problem and issues. And I've highlighted so many different things, okay, and there's still more things to highlight. As you know, the whole thing started in 1948, or you can say that the beginning of the way our people was invited here by the British government, and they migrated from the Caribbean and parts of Africa here to work, okay, and basically to clean, serve, and to build up this country, generally speaking, which they did contribute to. And not only that, you have to think about what really, as black people, contributed to this country, right? And you look at, maybe there's not enough information out there or sources of information out there to say, well, what has black people contributed to this country called Great Britain? Okay, and I kind of remembered saying that, what is this country really called? And what it's actually called is it's called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Okay, that's what it's supposed to be called, right? But I think they just cut it and just call it the UK, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to develop an understanding around, okay, when we're talking about things from a black African perspective. And, this whole situation that has been happening, has been occurring, it's been built up over a period of time. And if you look going back in the past, okay, you can see how these laws have been affecting us as time has gone by. And I think the real issues that we have potentially is that black people in this country, African Caribbean people, okay, and I always like to refer to us as people who are one group of people, as a nation of people. And just be real, the British law, and we're going to be talking a lot about British law, okay, is quite clear based on their laws and policies what people we are. It doesn't matter where you say you come from or what you look like or what religion. Well, as far as they're concerned, they identify you as a black person, okay? And the laws are potentially, some of the laws that is potentially designed just for black people in terms of what we're talking about, the whole thing around immigration, migration, and emigration. And I feel like the laws and policies that are affecting us, okay, and have continued to affect us and will continue to affect us, is because we haven't really got no one around. There's no structure in place. We've got no organizations, no institutions in place to really challenge these laws, these policies, okay, British, the government as a whole. So what happens is that these laws come and go without being challenged or tested or anything like that. And I think that what really is supposed to happen, and why we got caught up in a lot of this stuff, okay, is because we're not looking at things of how we need to defend ourselves based on the British laws and how they want to define us as a group of people and you know what our status is as a group of people, because I'm sure a lot of us who are from the Windrush generation generally at this point in time must be completely confused as to what is your status, right? So that's the first segment I'll be talking about, and then I'm definitely going to be talking about the second segment around talking about the new immigration point-based system. Okay, we need to, you know, just touch on it just to give people an idea what's that about, because that's even more going to be like policies around restricting people coming into this country. And obviously, if you're from the Caribbean and Africa and you want to come to this country, then you're going to have to understand what this new immigration point-based system is all about. All right, just in case you may know someone that's a family member, for example, or someone that you just generally know that wants to come over here. And you know, I think that we need to also look at how is it going to affect the way that we work as a group of people, and trade and do business and socialize and things of that nature. How is it going to affect us everyday lives? Okay. And also on the third topic, I think recently you just heard Sister just here just talking about the whole thing around the coronavirus. So we're going to be looking at that, going to be updating some information around that. So I'll be really interested to hear from people's views. Like I said, I'm here. It's not about me and what I'm saying. It's about you and what the listening audience is saying. I'm just here to mediate, to facilitate, and to conversate around these different topics and conversations of our everyday lives. So I just wanted to remind people about this whole thing that's really happening right now. It's a live thing that's happening now. The scandal happened in 2018. It all started pouring out. And they've come out with a scheme, okay, to support, when I say they, the British government has come out with a scheme to support the Windrush generation. And I'm just going to go over it, just cover it just slightly, just to give you a brief idea. What's that about? All right. So it says there, I'm writing to you to tell you, to encourage you to apply for the Windrush compensation scheme. And it says there in the next paragraph, as a member of the Windrush generation and an elected representative of many other descendants and ancestors of Windrush families, I know of the trauma following that arduous journey. I also know of the huge distrust and fear of the authorities in our community given the horrific treatment at the hands of this government's hostile environment policy. That is why I want to let you know that here at Lambeth Council, and maybe there's other areas in London, I would imagine, and across the country where they're rolling out this scheme. Anyway, it goes on to say that we are on your side, and that Lambeth is where the majority of the Windrush generation found their home and their sense of belonging. And this is where they settled, made our way in Britain, and developed a true sense of community, identity, and culture. And here in Lambeth, we spearheaded the Windrush campaign movement. And yeah, I need to touch on that. There's a couple of movements that's going around. I think there's one called, what's it called? The Windrush I think it's called Movement for Justice by Any Means Necessary, okay? Maybe, you know, if anybody's tuning in, please, whatever I'm saying, you can always, if you're at your computer, your keyboards, or your tablet or your laptop or whatever, please, I want you to join in. It's interactive, okay? So, you know, if there's any information that you want to add on, or if you want to take away, or even if you want to correct or challenge or question or whatever, just feel free to express yourself. This is what this radio station is all about. And it's for us as Black African people, as a nation of people, to really look at some of the problems and issues where we can find our own solutions, okay, to dealing with it, all right? And I know a lot of things take time, but they also we need to know that we have to put infrastructures in place. We need to put like sort of our own systems in place, and you know build on the things that we need to be able to help us to go forward. Okay, so continue this layout. This was to introduce people from Africa and the Caribbean who are really struggling, and I think there's so many untold stories. We don't know many, hundreds of thousands of untold stories where people have suffered this very, very, how can you describe it? Because some people have described it as even as toxic as Nazi Germany in World War II. That's really that toxic environment that, in comparison is similar to that. And you got to really, really look at the British government, okay, and how they're dealing with black African people compared to other groups of people. Because I'm going to tell you, there's so many disparities, there's so many disproportionalities, okay, and a long list of things in comparison to our black African people from the Caribbean or Africa or wherever, okay, have been mistreated, ill-treated, or have faced so many injustices. As you know, there's a disproportionate in everything. So why people don't think that it's disproportionate in the immigration or the way that the British government has been dealing with black people in terms of how we've been migrating, or how they want to see us as immigrants, and then they're turning around saying they're seeing us as immigrants, okay, even though, our people have indefinite stays, or they got their papers, they got their passport, whatever, but we're deemed as criminals, right? So anyway, the compensation scheme has been established for the case of many people in Lambeth and across the country who were faced with problems over the right to work, access to benefits and services they were entitled to, and even forced deportation as a result of the government's failure to properly support people who were legally entitled to be in the UK but did not have proper documentation. So there's also, I've got some information also around the fact that they've got some things to do with they've got a document. It's a 34-page document or draft. I think I mentioned it last week, where we're going to be looking at it, where they're talking about righting the wrongs that have been done to African and Caribbean people, okay, that's got caught up in the whole Windrush, very dehumanizing, humiliating saga that, I don't think a lot of people understand what some of our people have had to go through. There's so many horror stories, for real, that a lot of people, they tend to not see these things. All right, so the scheme also says that it is not limited to people who originally came to the UK from the Caribbean Commonwealth, and almost everyone originally from a Commonwealth country who arrived from before the 1st of January 1973 is included. If you have a right of abode or settled status or are now a British citizen and arrived to live in the UK before the 31st of December 1988, you will also be eligible to apply regardless of your nationality when you arrive, even if you are not a Commonwealth citizen, okay? And then it said the scheme is also open to many others, including children and grandchildren of Commonwealth citizens. In certain circumstances, the estates of those who are now deceased but who would have otherwise been eligible to claim compensation, and close family members of eligible claimants where there has been a significant impact on their life or whether there is evidence of certain direct financial cost. So there's a lot of what you call reverberations around this. It's really affect the communities, a knock-on effect, all right? And communities and families all up and down the country are affected in some shape or form. And it's a real struggle. It's a real fight for us as a people, and maybe we came here with all kinds of ideas. Maybe our parents or grandparents came here with all kinds of ideas, but they didn't come here to cause any problems. They came here and they just got their head down. They're very hard-working people. No one can't say that black people are not hard-working people, because you wake up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and see who's going to work. 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Who you see going to work mostly at that time in the morning? It's mainly black people, right? Really one of the hardest group of people. You got some people working 2 jobs, okay? So the idea that, see, the thing is that the government is really to blame for all this hysteria and, this whole idea of actually getting the whole country to look at us, to look at us like we're criminals, for example, right? And to make this whole environment a lot hostile for us and make it more difficult. But what a lot of people don't understand is that before we got here, it was already a hostile environment against black people, because the dynamics then at the time was there was a culture clash, okay? And that caused the people that was living there to, not all white people, we say, but the people living there looking at black people like we come here to take whatever they got, okay? Or to use whatever they got. So one of the things is that they keep on saying is that we come here to take advantage of their social security system, for example, or their national health service system, okay? And then they didn't want us to do any work, in fact, they didn't want us to be in employment, they didn't want us to take the job, they didn't want us in shops, they didn't want us in pubs, clubs. There was a lot of what you call discrimination and prejudice, where black people couldn't go anywhere or couldn't do anything we was not accepted here by the indigenous people here. And I'm just generalizing here when I say that not all Europeans, when I say all English people, white people, and I have to say white just to identify things, okay? That's what that group calls themselves. They call themselves white. And I'm supposed they're proud of being called white, okay? And, all this stuff to do with race and colour, they had the colour bar system where black people weren't allowed to go anywhere in certain places anyway, because they was trying to get away from that idea where black people could be accepted in different places, okay? Black people had to put up with a lot of stuff, okay? And we had to fight and resist all of that, okay? And they did that, and they came through as best as possible. So the idea that black people come here to sponge off the system and all that, that's just a misnomer, okay? We're much harder work. In fact, the people here, they were sitting down here, half of them didn't want to work themselves. They weren't going to take up some of these jobs themselves, okay? So if anybody that's really lazy, if you want to identify a group of people lazy, well, the people here that's born here, they're the lazy ones, right? But you can't tell them that, can you? All right. So there's so many angles to this thing that when you look at some of the issues today, right, it's not surprising that we're struggling as black people, because essentially, like I said, we don't have real strong infrastructures in place, okay, to deal with the system, especially with British law. So obviously, we don't have any defences to really counteract whatever they're going to throw at us. So we're going to have a really difficult time. All right, so let me just go here, and I'll come back to you in a second.
Tune in to Sayshara, the voice for the voiceless on Fafurity Radio. www.fafurityLondon.co.uk. Sayshara, the most topical radio presenter, coming from London, England, live every Sunday, 3 till 6 p.m. Sayshara.
Yeah, that's it. Sayshara telephone numbers are to the hands 07305417668. Okay, so that's Preferity Radio. If you go to www.preferityLondon.co.uk/Preferity Radio. Okay. All right. So I've got a couple articles, very interesting stuff that we need to be looking at. Okay. And like I said, there's some stuff in the... Let me see if I can actually go to it now. If I can, let's go to some of these articles, all right? So we can get to where we need to be, all right? So then let me just cover some of the stuff that we were talking about the last few weeks, all right? So we talked about who destroyed the Windrush landing cards. Remember the government, the British government destroyed the landing card that would prove that black people had come here at some point in time. It's a record, okay, that shows that we entered the country at a specific point in time. And to me, it's a real deliberate action. And a lot of stuff that's happening is contrived. They planning these things, okay? And they know exactly what they're doing. Don't think they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly. In fact, everything that they do, the British government is very, very meticulous in the things that they're doing. Okay, they're very meticulous. Okay, all right. So they always talk about the theory of a revelation that Home Office destroyed 1,000 Windrush landing cards. Also, we talked about the victims of the Windrush Scandal had little time for complaints about bullying at the Home Office. That was a story about Philip Ruttman. Philip Ruttman was what you call a civil servant or civil minister in the Conservative government that recently resigned, who was working in the Home Office department. And anyway, he had a beef for some little discreet. Well, it's turned out like he's resigned, okay, because he's saying that Priti Patel is a bully and he's accused of bullying and stuff like that, okay? So, he's feel like he's under pressure now, innit? But just imagine, I mean, he's comfortable, really, in his job, okay? And maybe his boss is bullying him around, okay, and he can't take it. But just imagine all the bullying that black people had to take. So, what they're saying, they're comparing him to what's happening to him compared what's happening to black people during this hostile environment. Okay, if you think that you've been bullied, what do you think's happened to black people then? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of interesting that recently came out. Also, we looked at the Windrush Scandal, Home Office reckless and defensive leaked reviews finds. We also looked at the Windrush draft report that called Home Office institutionally racist, and they're saying that the report was watered down. Okay, so that's interesting too as well. And we also looked at the the archive documents that showed the long betrayal by the British government. Yeah. So the things that we need to let's look at the Windrush draft report then. Okay. So let's see what's going on there. It says, all right. So it says there. The Windrush draft report that called on with his installation, I think we kind of touched on that, so I don't think we need to go there again. So what we need to do is look at some stuff to do. I want to get this report, if I can remember to find it somewhere, and then we can have a real look at some of the things that he was talking about, because some of the stuff that was there actually covered actually touched on some of the things that draft report actually talks about. Okay, so we touched on it, but it actually goes into some of the stuff there. And so really we need to look at that. All right. But the problem that we got again is that we've got these different laws, okay? So it's been 70 years, okay, since 2000. So 1948 to 2018, 70 years. So 72 years now, we're here now, okay, from that period of time. So why did the Windrush Scandal, as it commonly known, why did it have to happen? Again, like I said, I'm looking at it as a human rights abuse or an injustice, or it's a system that's against our civil liberties. We're not allowed to have freedom to do some of the things that we need to do, just like anybody else. And it's a real indictment that a lot of damage has been done, and you have to look at what is the cost of the damage that's been done and what things can be done to actually rectify it. And unless we look at the laws, the actual laws themselves, I think that the laws themselves have to be updated, or they need to be reformed or amended or something like that. Something needs to be done, right? But it seems what the government's very good at doing is making more and more laws, okay? Laws on top of laws on top of laws, okay? And they don't actually, it's like when it comes to us, they don't actually amend anything or they don't update anything. They just, they don't update any information or policies or laws that is going to protect the rights of our people. That's what I'm talking about, okay? It looks like all the laws are designed to attack us, just attack us. That's all you need to do, right? And really, if you look at the British government, what have they really got to do? They just, they have to find something to do, right? So to make the government work, people getting paid and stuff like that, MPs are getting paid, so they have to do something. And, it's the things that they're doing to us that we should be seriously concerned about, all right? We can't expect to just sort of every 4 years just vote, every 4 years just vote, and we're just voting. And what I say, most people are voting, black people are voting from generally speaking, Labour, and you're just voting, and you're not really getting anything from your votes. And at the same time, the people that you're voting for, they're not protecting your rights. They're not doing anything to protect your rights, okay? Right? And it just seems like a lost cause, being a part of the political system or participating in the part of the system, okay? It seems like a lost cause because, we've been voting. Every time we've been voting, how long have we been voting? And, we're in a worse situation. So that's not really worked for us. So my question is this, okay? And I'm asking the question, is the government institutionally racist? I mean, the verdict is out there, but as far as I'm concerned, that I've already made my verdict already a long, long time ago before this scandal even happened, right? And that's the situation that we're in presently. And I don't think it's up to the government for us to rely on the government to be able to fix this problem, because there's things that we have to tell the government, or we're going to have to force the issue to the government, okay, to get them to recognize what our problems and issues, because they may see it, but they're not going to deal with it. And that's one of the issues that we have when it comes to dealing with British laws and policy. So it's a very, very difficult situation where you see a lot of our people. Let's look at some of our people who have been there for 40, 50 years, okay? And a lot of these our people have been subjected to a process, not a really good process of dealing with this situation. And I'm sure there are better ways of dealing with this situation rather than all this stuff to do with this hostile environment. And they made it quite clear that they're going to make it an hostile environment and make it very difficult. It was very, very difficult. Very, very difficult for a lot of people. And yeah, they're going to throw money at it. But the problem is, that the damage is already done. And, you know, I think that the government should be held accountable for the actions in some shape or form. Anyway, I think certain ministers have apologised for what has been done, but maybe it's not enough. Maybe what they're doing is not enough. And people may be looking at other things where we need to be looking at, things around those people that have been deported, for example, and some of those people that have been deported. How can we bring them back here? And what is there a process to bring those people back here that have been unfairly deported? Okay, because I've not really heard anything much about that. There should be some sort of vindication for them where they will be able to have some sort of recompensation scheme for those people there. There's a video that you can go out and check out yourself called Windrush Generation, the scandal that shook Britain, explained and debated. That was produced by Channel 4, and they said some real interesting things there. It's a 1 hour 10-minute long video. There's a comment here that I want to go to quickly, okay? It says this is by Omalon 11. It says that the scandals of today are rooted in the secrets of yesterday. Okay, so let me say that again. The scandals of today are rooted in the secrets of yesterday. In Living Aside 2009's Barefoot for 1999, the Sister Soldier published The Coldest Winter. Channel 4 hosted a blagger's guide to black history. It was also the year the BBC aired the documentary Playing the Race Card, which is what the government, let me stop there. The government loves to use the race card. They love to use it. And then they pretend, they're not racist. But they love to use the race card. And they use the race card. And you see over the last 70 years, okay, how often they used it. If it's not conservative, it's Labour. It's either or both or whatever. Yeah. But it's more conservative. More conservative. They're definitely going to be using it. And even you can go far as back as Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, right? You're a great Winston Churchill. Or is it Sir Winston Churchill? Anyway, he was very, very institutionally racist. No doubt about that. Okay? And the evidence is there based on the fact that he wanted to put out some slogan similar to no dogs, not Irish, and all of this stuff, and no, the N-word, okay? No blacks, right? Dogritchy, the really Dogritchy slogan he was going to put out about getting rid of black people, and he was going to use that to, to go around campaigning, okay? So don't think that Winston Churchill loves black people, right? Because from what I can see, he don't love black people, right? Anyway, and remember, it was, this whole thing around what you call the colour bar or what you call prejudice or discrimination or atheism, because racism never existed until around about, well, let's say the word racism, or to define racism. I'm going to go over that as well. I'm going to go over some of these laws, okay? Just to get people to understand a certain thing about this, okay? Because one of the things I was looking at is, when was the first race laws that came out, okay? Because there's a lot of things going on that we're not really looking at, but certain little things are connected, right? As time goes by, I'll give you an idea. Let me just finish this this comment. It was also the year the BBC aired the documentary Playing the Race Card, detailing policy that was the impact upon us. It revealed that in the 1950s, a secret, listen to this, that in the 1950s, a secret civil service committee was established that it made the case for controls. Its complete title, Working Party to Report on the Growing Social and Economic Problems Arising from the Influx into the United Kingdom of coloured workers from other Commonwealth countries. That was quoted in August 3rd, 1955. Inad wanted the secret Windrush Files 2019. David Alusoga exposed the makings of the hostile environment, and in May 1947, the Kingston governor sent a telegram to the colonial office in Whitehall warning of the arrival. Now, this was in 1947, okay? So in 1947, in May, the Kingston governor sent a telegram. Remember, the governor or attorney general governor was his counsel to the British Crown, right? So basically, they're advisors to the British government. So the Kingston governor sent a telegram to the colonial office in Whitehall warning of the arrival. The Secretary of State was urged to do everything possible to prevent the occurrence. Even PM Hatley referred to it as an incursion, even suggesting they be diverted to East Africa to pick ground nuts. By contrast, an April 1947 document revealed the veterans were warmly welcomed in the thousand. Immediately upon arrival, MPs wrote the PM weary this influx would empower the army, strength and cohesion, and sought to control immigration. In January 7th, 1955, the Spectator reported on the Jamaican flood. 10 days later, British Path A aired Our Jamaican Problem. This came within the context of the 1948 British National Act and 1951, when Churchill led the Conservatives back before raising immigration questions to his cabinet in 1952. So let me stop there, okay? Because you can, if you want, you can go to that Spectator, the Jamaican flood, January the 7th, 1955. I tried to source that information. The only problem is you've got to subscribe or you've got to sign in, all right? But anyway, they talk about the Jamaican flood, okay? So it gives you an insight about the sentiments of the mainstream media talking about the Jamaican flood. And now you specifically said Jamaican flood, right? Now, I don't know why they targeting Jamaicans, right? But for some reason, this government just targets Jamaicans more than other Caribbean islands or African countries, right? But you know, I don't know why that is, okay? And it'd be interesting to hear from anybody that could tell me why is it that Jamaican people are being picked on, or am I wrong for saying that? Telephone numbers are 073 054 17668, okay? Let me just double check the phone so I know everything's live and running okay. Looks like it's up and running okay. Right, so, you know, and it's interesting that black people want to sit in silence, because I find it remarkable, really remarkable, that we think we got a lot of things to say in it, yeah? But when the time comes for us to say it, we don't say it. Do you know what I'm saying? We sit down in silence. That's, you know what I mean? What are we? What kind of a people are we? Just sit down, allow these people just roll over us so we don't do nothing. We don't think we need to come together to do anything, right? All right. So please send me a text, or you're welcome to call in at any point in time. Okay. So we're going to talk about laws, because this is where it's all crouched in, isn't it? In laws and in language, the policies in laws and language, okay? So anyway, it says in this comment, it says yeah, I talked about the Spectator report.
Went to Africa and you told the Africans that they must all become Christians, because if they become Christians, when they die, they will go to heaven, because heaven is a wonderful place. Ladies and gentlemen, if heaven was such a good place, do you think white people will tell black people about it? So we came to England with all the expectations of being equal. Here we are in the mother country. The white man can't come to terms with it. But I'll tell you something, as I've said before. If you English people, not white people, if you're not English, you're welcome to stay in England. If you're English and you don't like the way we are running England, please leave.
Yeah. The hostile environment began as soon as they touched the surface, the shores of Tilbury and these different places, okay? And that's when it began. And the proof is in the pudding, right? They made these documentary and films and reports all about black people and the immigration problem, or black people migrating, because it wasn't really an immigration problem, it was a migration problem, right? So it says there, they set up this working party and further claimed these immigrants were coming to steal dole money. In June 1953, officials were informed to conduct a secret, listen to this, and if you think that this government doesn't do things in secret, and they're not doing things in secret against black people and African people and the Caribbean people and African people and all of this stuff, okay, then I think you need to get your head tested, because you don't know what you're talking about, right? There's a lot of people out here, right, they just don't understand things, right? And it's not their fault. Maybe it's not their fault. You're just not in the right place at the right time. You're not with the people that's going to inform you. Or maybe it is your fault. Maybe you become insular. You shut everything down, right? That's to do with anything to do with black people. You just can't deal with that, right? But you got to look around. Look at around us and look at what's happening to our people. It doesn't matter what generation you want to go across. All generations are suffering oppressions, right? A system of oppression. That's what this government's all about, right? This government and a lot of these European governments, they're all about oppressing their people, right? They get a hard-on off it, yeah? That's what, it gives them something to do to oppress people. You know what I'm saying? What else they're going to do? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, it says there that, again, it says there that we come here, that, you know, the Caribbean, you imagine we came here to work. Our parents came here to work. Grandparents came here to work, right? Not to sponge. They left their lovely, warm family and environment. You know what I'm saying? They left a lot of family members. They had to, I don't think a lot of people understand that what we had to go through. Just imagine that we had to go through leaving our families, that families were broken up because of this. And distance our families. Okay? And now we come to this 70 years later, we've got another breakup. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's, by them deporting some of our people back to the Caribbean, they broke up families again. Right? So back to back, we got to look at how these things are going to be affecting us. Right? So anyway, like I said, in June 1953, officials were informed to conduct a secret race survey to gather statistics to evaluate this claim. It was also 2 weeks after Queen Elizabeth, head of the Commonwealth, had come to the throne, and in 1955, Health Minister Enoch Powell visited Barbados to invite workers to the National Service, but the hospitality was soon replaced by hostility. In 1952, the McWarren-Walter Act restricted access to the farm work program in the USA. In 1954, Constantine Leary highlighted exclusion in the colour bar. The colour bar system, again, was being totally prejudicial against black people from going anywhere or getting jobs or getting housing or getting anything. Yeah. So that's what that was about. 96. Oh, hold on. It says, Constantine Leary was a cricketer for the West Indies. He's a well-known, famous cricketer. He's a lord now. But it's amazing that we got these lords and ladies and all these type of people. And when these problems were coming up or when these laws were coming up, you never heard nothing from these people. Right? But then again, I could be wrong. What do I know? Sayshara, I don't know anything. Right? Anyway, it says here, and it's really interesting comment around the Windrush Scandal debate. It says here, 1962 Commonwealth Immigrants Act. No, let me go back. It says that the colour bar in 1957, immigrants continued to be met by the White Defence League, culminating in the 1958 Notting Hill clashes. 1962 Commonwealth Immigrants Act of Harold Macmillan looked to control immigration on the basis of employment prospects. Brad Butler opinion the great merit of this scheme is that it can be presented as making no distinction on grounds of race or colour, although in practice this discretion would be applied. He continued, we must recognise that although the scheme purports to register solely to employment and be non-discriminatory, its aim is entirely social and its restrictive effect is intended to and would in fact operate on coloured peoples almost exclusively. In 1962, Jamaica and Trinidad were granted independence, as was Barbados in 1966. And in 1965, Race Relations Act was passed, which was amended in 2000, the year Damilola Taylor was stabbed. In 1967, CARD petitioned to have the minstrel. Remember the minstrel show, which is a black and white minstrel show, 1958 to 1978, pulled from air. So basically, there was a petition by CARD, I don't know who they are, to have the black and white minstrels. It was called the Black and White Minstrels, or I don't know. But it says there the minstrel show. But if I remember seeing that show, the Black and White Minstrel. And basically, just to give you a little idea what that was about, it was white people dancing and singing, but they was dressed in like black faces, right? I think the men was dressed in black faces, if I remember. I don't know, I can't remember. Maybe mixed, I can't remember, so long ago. But anyway, they painted their faces black, generally speaking, right? And that's why they call it the black and white minstrels. But that idea or that concept was nothing new, because there was other characters, I can't remember, going back to the 20s that were painting their face black. I think Al Johnson was one of the famous ones, if I remember. There was others. Al Johnson was a singer, a white singer. He painted his face black, but then he would sing sort of black folk songs, if you can say that. Yeah, he was kind of really acting like he was black, right? So anyway, that's what was going on. That's what was called the minstrel show, or what you call the black and white minstrel show. So anyway, there was a petition to pull that from TV. Anyway, it says in the 70s it was just one of the shows provoking race alongside Mind Your Mouth and Love Thy Neighbour. And in 1968, the Emergency Commonwealth Immigration Act was passed to curb British passport holding Kenyans. It was amended with the 1971 Immigration Act marked the end of black immigration for settlement, demanding people to be burdened to prove that they are British. But in the meantime, life went on. In 2014, Lunar House formalised the hostile environment, yet here we are fighting to breathe just to prove that we have the right to breathe. After 51 years, they're going to grant me something you were legally entitled to. Okay? And I want to big up Home Alone 11 for that article. Under the video, the Windrush generation scandal that shook Britain, explained and debated. Yeah. So we've got that going on. And in terms of the law, we really got to wrap our head around this. I'm telling you, man. I'm sorry to say this, but black people, you just hear, you don't even know what you're doing there because you don't understand laws. You're not understanding the British law, right? Because you're not. See, what we're supposed to have, okay? We're meant to have by now, we're supposed to know the system, innit? And how the system operates. We need the best law defense team on the planet Earth, if you can put it like that. Yeah, that's what we need, right? Because they're going to continue to bring these laws, and if we don't have people in place, okay, to challenge these laws, right, they're just going to keep rolling over us, and that's what it is, okay? Because I've looked at a lot of stuff to do with laws, and there's an A to Z of laws. That's how much laws there is. There's so many different laws for so many different things, okay? It's amazing how many laws there is, okay? But if you think about it, think about the different laws, right, that you think that could affect black people when it comes to this whole thing to do with immigration and migration. Think about how many laws there is, because just in that article I just read out, you can tell there's a lot of laws, okay? So now going back to what I was saying earlier, I tried to figure out what's actually going on, because in between we got the British National Act, number one, two, we got the Immigration Act, 3, we got the Commonwealth Act, sorry, that's 3, and then 4, we got also this whole thing to do with race discrimination, right? All these things are interlinked, right? But if you look at laws, I know a lot of people are not interested in law, and I can understand, because it is kind of, the language is very, very in-depth, and in some ways it's long and it's boring and it's tedious, and, you know, can be complicated, okay? Because you've got to read a lot of stuff, right? And I know a lot of people would just say, well, you know, I'm not interested in that at all. But the problem is, black people are here, right? And we don't understand. I don't think we understand. We talk about voting, right? And we vote, but we don't understand the laws. I don't understand. You're just voting, but you're not understanding the system, are you? You're not understanding the laws. You're not understanding policies, okay? Right? And then when they roll over us, okay, we start complaining, right? But we're not involved in the law. You know, we don't have to be involved in the political system, in the heart, in the head of the beast. You know what I'm saying? We've got politicians in the head of the beast, right? And they can only do so much for black people because they can only have an affiliation with their party and represent their party and what their party's manifesto and policies are. They can't represent black people, right? You can't get a black party either, right? All right. So we've got to find a way. There's two things that we can do. We can work within the system and improvise in the system, but we need a good team of lawyers. We need the best lawyers in the planet Earth, okay? Number one, yeah? Obviously, we need to bankroll that, you could say, or to finance that. Or what we need is our own resources. We need a resource bank, okay, where we can finance and we can support that, right? So obviously we need to start somewhere and able to do that. And obviously we need to build up our own pot of money to be able to pay for lawyers, okay? We're supposed to have our own team of lawyers. In any case, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be, it could be immigration. It could be to do with how so many injustices, death in custody, for example, right? The disproportionality of people being locked up in prison and being sentenced and all of this stuff, okay? It could be to do with laws in education. It could be to do with laws with mental health. It could be to do with laws with all manners of things, right? Housing, jobs, or employment, right? So we need to know law. We're supposed to have black people need to be protected more than any other group of people. So why haven't we got a team of lawyers? Why aren't we supporting that? Anyway, the first law that came up, it says here, and you can go to the Parliament, Race Discrimination Bill 1960 for this, yeah? So this is what happened, right? Black people came in. See, all this stuff about racism, people's talking about, oh, you got white people saying that black people are racist now. They weren't saying that before, right? Asian people were saying it. Every other people was saying it. And the fact of the matter is that none of these people got nothing to do with these race laws to begin with, right? Other than that, the Europeans were, or white people here were attacking black people, right? And that obviously they was getting a lot of complaints. It was looking bad on this country that the way black people was treated or black people was mistreated or ill-treated, okay, it would look bad on the government. So it didn't take too long for this to happen before they had to debate this in Parliament, or it was proposed in Parliament and brought forward in Parliament to say, well, look, something needs to be done. Black people are being oppressed, right? Black people are facing injustices. Black people have been assaulted. Black people have been discriminated, right? And a long list of stuff, right? So it didn't take that long. How long did it take? From 1948 to 1959 that they came out with the first bill, the Race Discrimination Bill of 1960. And I'm going to read it. It says, following the 1959 general election, Archibald Fenner Brockway brought his race discrimination bill to Parliament a second time, you see? So you might have to even go beyond 1959 that they brought this in Parliament. So remember now, it was rejected the second time. Then 1960, bill found great support within the Labour Party amongst MPs such as Barbara Castle and Tony Benn. It was also well received by some Conservative Party members, most notably the distinguished athlete and television broadcaster Christopher Chataway, who had won the parliamentary seat for the multicultural London Borough of Lewisham in the recent election. The principles of the bill were now being considered within an international context, including that of the new Commonwealth nations and increasing protestations against the apartheid system in South Africa. However, it was not until after the 1964 Labour election victory that attempts at legislation was successful. right? So this is what's happening, okay? And so when people's talking about racism and all of this stuff, okay, and everybody's calling, you know, felt like they're, you know, being treated like being racially discriminated. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's saying that. You got white people saying it, Asian people saying it, right? Arabs saying it. Everybody's saying it, right? But the fact of the matter is, you're saying it off the back of black people, okay? Because it was black people that was suffering from the effects of discrimination, prejudice, atheism, and all sorts of assaults and attack and defamation and all long list of things, right? So you had that. So you see, does the race discrimination bill need to be updated, for example? Does it need to be amended? So, you know what I'm saying? It's still there, right? What have they done about that, right? And then people talk about, well, you know, racism doesn't exist no more and all of this stuff, right? I mean, we've got to get real with what's going on in this world, right? Okay, so you can kind of map out exactly how this government and the main populous people, the populous general public as a whole, you can see what their sentiments were, okay, around how they feel about black people living in and working in and socializing in this country, okay? All right, so let me go back to another law, all right? Then I got another article I'm going to read out. Yeah. Let me just go to this. Not sure.
Sayshara. Radiating, permeating, and emanating through speech and action. In full gear, automatic traction, exposing the illusions, the lies, and all of the distractions. You've just entered the Sayshara zone.
Yeah, Sayshara. Back here on the set. All right, telephone numbers for those people locked in and tuned in is 073 05 41 7668. All right, so I'm just looking at the time. All right, so I probably got less than half an hour on this, and then I'm going to touch on the point-based system and update this whole thing around the coronavirus, okay? So keep it locked in and tuned in here for Verity Radio. All right, so let's quickly go through these laws, okay? So keep people understand, okay, that we're not dealing with this in the way, we're not, how can I put it? We're not looking at things that, what's the most logical things that we need to work on? What's the most constructive? What's the most beneficial things? What's the things that we need to do that's going to reflect on us, okay, and how we need to move forward and advance, right? So, so we talked about the race discrimination bill, and then if we look at the race relation, if we go to the British National Act, okay, 1948, right? So the British National Act 1948 was an act of Parliament of the United Kingdom that created the status of citizen of the United Kingdom and colonies. Now, this is where it gets a bit complicated, right? This is what I'm saying to you about these different laws. Now, this came out in 1948, practically the same year that the Windrush generation in their thousands migrated in this country. Remember, they was invited by the government to fill in jobs. Now, the jobs that they need to fill in on their quota, based on their quotas, was well over 1 million, okay? So between 1948 to the 70s, the mid 70s or early 70s, you could say, there was a flood of thousands of people from the Caribbean and Africa, thousands, okay? Tens of thousands, right? Because they need to fill in that labor shortage where they can get people employed and get the whole economy, get the whole British economy to stimulate the economy back to what it is now. And look at it now, right? It's thriving. You look at London, you look at the city of London or central London, right? There's buildings as high as the sky, okay? I mean, it's starting to blot out the skyline now. If you notice now, they've got, you know, all this Americanized building. You've got these designer buildings now. Everyone's got their prototype designer building, okay, to show their architecture skills or prowess or whatever you want to call it, okay? So you've got all these buildings, untold buildings and apartments and offices, all these glass buildings, you know, and, you know, it looks really fantastic, right? But it shows you that the amount of money and wealth that's here. Remember that London is a capital, is a banking financial capital of the world, in fact, all right? So, you know, this country's doing pretty well. But if we look at the British Nationality Act and understand what's going on there and how it kind of intertwines with what they call the citizen of the United Kingdom colonies. Now, this is what I don't understand. If you, I'm sort of really perplexed around this, okay? Because if you're part of the Commonwealth, I don't understand this, yeah? You're independent. You're supposed to be independent because I think a lot of things went wrong when we went in not went wrong, but like, you know, it's like the government must have said, oh, you want to go independent? Okay, so we're just going to make it as difficult for you as possible. Now, we're going to really twist the knife in your back, right? Because, you know, we don't really want you to be independent. But the fact is, let's be real. The African countries and the Caribbean countries, most of them are not really independent. They never have been independent. And they're still colonies. Let's be real. They're still colonies, right? Because look here. You know, I think we've been deceived with the language to think that we're independent. We need to define what independence is, isn't it? What is independent? We need to not be independent. We need to be interdependent, self-independent, self-sufficient, self-sovereign. We need to have a self-sufficiency, self-supportive system. We don't, you know what I'm saying? But the system set things up, okay, that we need to depend on them while they're depending on us, okay, to feed off us. They need us to feed off us, our sources, our labor resources, etc., our energy, okay? They need us for that, right? This is why we've been used and abused here in this country. A lot of black people don't know that and don't understand that we've been used and abused. We're just here for a particular purpose, and after that, you know, our shelf life is limited, right? So we came here for a particular purpose, okay? And the agenda wasn't a black agenda. It was a white agenda, right? So this whole thing around what they call CUKC, Citizens of the United Kingdom and Colonies, right? And it's all bound in the Commonwealth, right? And it's interesting about the Commonwealth. What's interesting about the Commonwealth, right? You remember now, it was in 2018 when the Windrush Scandal debacle came out. At the same time, you had what you call the CHOGM, right? The Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings, okay? They have a meeting every 2 years. Every 2 years, the Commonwealth have a meeting, okay? Now, you can go on their website and look at what they're all about. And they've got programs. They got all kinds of programs, the Commonwealth, okay? All kinds of projects and plans and all of this stuff, okay? Right? For the Caribbean and African countries to follow, basically. That's what it is. Because that's all these Caribbean leaders and Africans, when they came in, what they're doing, they're following whatever they've been told they got to do, right? It's not a case that they need to do things for themselves, okay, and that they lead their own agenda. No, they're following somebody else's agenda. This is what we've been doing, and we continue. 2018 we keep on doing it, and then we talk about, oh, we're independent. What? How are we independent? I wish somebody could explain to me, how are we dependent? How are we sovereign? How are we autonomous? Or we don't think that we need to be, right? But the Europeans don't care whether, we're not autonomous, we're not sovereign. They don't want us to be like that. They want to know that we're in the lowest position, the weakest positions, the most vulnerable, susceptible position, so they can take advantage of us. It's simple calculation. It's not really hard to work out. And they've worked this one out, right? So this whole thing around British citizenship or being a British subject is bound in policy around the British National Act 1948 and the Commonwealth Act and then the Immigration Act and the Race Relations Act. All of these acts, right? So they enact these laws, right? Basically, we're under duress. Because when they make these laws, who's challenging them? Or you think they're making laws to make things better for us? No, they're making laws to better their own people. See, they make these laws to protect their own people. It's not really protecting us, right? And if you look at it, that's what it really is. The laws are to protect their own people against us, black people, African Caribbean people, people of African ancestry, African origins, African heritage, African descendants, right? So we got to understand that we've got to really understand the laws, right? And these different laws that define who we are, because we don't really have a definition. We're kind of stateless. Because what they're saying is that, yeah, you're welcome to come back, you're welcome to come here, and all of this stuff. Then they turn around and say, oh, we don't really want you here, But you're going to be here for a while because we need you to fill in the job. Once you fill in these jobs and done the job and we've built ourselves up, you know what I'm saying? We don't need you no more. You served your purpose, right? So we've got to find something to do to get rid of you. All right. So we need to understand the British Nationality Act of 1948. That's where it started, okay? And then it went into the Race Discrimination Act of 1959, 1960, right? Then we got the Race Relations Act of 1965. What does that say? Okay, it says the Race Relations Act 1965 was the first piece of legislation in the UK to address the prohibition of racial discrimination and followed previously unsuccessful bills. The Act banned racial discrimination in public places and made the promotion of hatred on the grounds of colour, race or ethnic or national origins an offence. See? So let me stop there. See? So what I'm saying is that these race laws wouldn't have happened, right, if it didn't happen to black people, right? And now everybody's feeding off it. Everybody's living off it like parasites. Do you get what I'm saying? While we're still suffering under it, right? So why don't we define what race discrimination is? Why don't they say, why don't we impose on it? Why don't black African people say, you know what, enough is enough, right? Why don't we create our own policies and laws, right? Define how we want to address that. Why are you waiting for other group of people? Because you're never going to get what you want out of this. You're never going to get some justice out of the British system, are you? Right? But anyway, it goes on to say that the Act banned racial discrimination in public places and made a promotion of hatred, remember the word, see, hatred on the grounds of colour, race or ethnic or national origins an offence. The bill received royal assent on 8th of November 1965 and came into force a month later on 8th of December 1965. It was introduced by the government in response to the increasing number of people who had moved to the UK from other Commonwealth countries. At the time of the Act being passed, there were nearly 1 million immigrants living in the UK. It was criticised for failing to address vital areas where discrimination was most prevalent, namely employment and wider aspects of acquiring accommodation. This led to the passing of the 1968 Race Relations Act, which made unlawful acts of discrimination with employment, housing and advertising. Right? So again, like I said, it didn't take too long for the Windrush generation. When we're talking about hostile environment, let's put it into perspective. That it started before we even got it. The whole thing around hatred or what people want to call racism or discrimination or prejudice, right, was white people against non-white people, right? And that black people, as a group of people, suffered the most of this hatred, this bitter, deep-rooted hatred. It's been going on hundreds of years. What are we talking about here? So a simple race act or a simple race bill or discrimination bill or prejudice bill, whatever bill, right, it's not going to make that all go away, right? And if you look at that, if you look at the first act from 1959, right, it didn't take too long before it kicked off within the first year of being here in 1948. The Windrush generation was suffering this abuse, right, and assaults, right, and even people got killed because of it, right? Black people got killed, right, because of this bitter root hatred that still exists today. But what I'm saying is it's not being properly addressed. But now everyone's turning around saying, oh, you're a racist, you're a racist. You've got white people. Like I said, everybody else is saying, but black people, it's so watered down, it's ridiculous, right? Everyone knows it's been diluted because why? We need to put our emphasis on the laws, right? We need to put our own emphasis on the law. We don't have a government in the Caribbean or Africa that none of these governments in Africa and the Caribbean don't make one. They're clueless, they're lame, right? All they're doing is being subservient to a European system. They're not serving black people. They can never serve black people. Why? Because the system that we're using is a European-dominated system. It's a system that says that you have to follow their system, right? So they want people that are like them to lead these Commonwealth, for example, these Commonwealth governments, okay? I mean, who are they serving? Yeah? And then, you know, we've got black leaders, right? Black countries, right? They've joined the Commonwealth organization, right? And then when you look at the Commonwealth, okay, the Queen is the head of the Commonwealth. And, you know, they talk about all the things that they're doing, right? And it's kind of interesting that they've got youth programs. They've got all these different programs, right? And they talk about trade and the economy and all that. But they never talk about immigration. They never talk about migration. All the things. They never talk about all the problems and issues that black people face. They never talk about that, right? So what good is the Commonwealth? You explain to me. Can anybody explain to me what purpose does the Commonwealth sell black people? Why they think they need to worship? Every year they have these. I mean, you know, it's crazy. You got sports personalities and entertainers all supporting all this stuff, innit? Right? Like nothing's happening. But when, you know, like nothing's happening to black people, right? We can just forget things and just support the Commonwealth, innit? Forget all the suffering, forget all the oppression, forget that black people are struggling, right? And all of this stuff, right? They're oppressed and all that, yeah? Just continue to prop up, you know, the system, prop up the Commonwealth. So we're part of the Commonwealth, right? We don't really benefit from it. What are the benefits? Who's benefiting more? Is it the British government benefiting more? Of course they benefit more. The Commonwealth's got 54 countries underneath their belt, right? So why would they worry about Brexit? Why are they worrying about Brexit for? They still got 48 countries under their belt. 54 countries underneath their belt, right? And about, I think 19 of them are African countries, right? And about 12 of them are Caribbean countries, right? And you've got to look at the French system as well. The French is very much colonialist. This is all colonialism. Colonialism, I'm going to tell you, maybe you never heard this, but Sayshara is saying this for 2020, colonialism never went away. It never went away. It just what they call shift-shaped, right? It never went anywhere. It just shift-shaped, right? And it's formed in a different disguise, right? And the whole thing, you know, this whole thing around colonialism it's a facade, isn't it? That's been going on, right? All right, so we covered the whole thing around that Race Discrimination Act, okay? and we need to be looking at also. I'm going to try and I need to find the draft, okay? Right, so let me just read this quickly. All right, so an important UK law on racial discrimination is 50 years old. Okay, the Race Relations Act 1968, right, is marking its 50th anniversary. This was in 2018 again. It said the landmark equality legislation made it an offence to discriminate against somebody because of the colour of their skin, race, ethnicity or national background in the provisions of goods, facilities and services, housing and trade union membership. It also banned discriminatory adverts and notices. We look back at the act, its history and how it informs Britain today. Until 1965, it was legal for pubs to bar people of colour. The first piece of legislation in the UK to address racism and racial discrimination was the Race Relations Act 1965, which banned racial discrimination in public places. It also made the promotion of hatred on the grounds of colour, race or ethnic or national origins an offence. The act was a response to racial discrimination towards British subjects from Commonwealth countries who had migrated, who had been invited, let me add, to Britain to fill labour shortages and help rebuild the country after World War II. For example, the Windrush, which carried around 492 passengers, I think it's been corrected, from the Caribbean, docked at Tilbury Docks on June the 22nd, 1948. By the time the Race Relations Act 1965 was passed, there was approximately 1 million immigrants from the Commonwealth in Britain. It was common for immigrants to face outright racism. Pubs would refuse to serve people of colour notices offering rooms to rent, would often say no blacks, no Irish, no dogs or no coloured. Campaigners including the Society of Labour Lawyers, the Campaign Against Racial Discrimination and Fenner Brockway. Now Fenner Brockway, he's a little bit like Tony. I think Tony Benn may have got some elements of influence from this character, and he's a very good character called Fenner Brockway. He's an Englishman. I mean, he's got a fantastic background. I've got to tell you, very, very interesting, this character. He's an MP called Fenner Brockway. He was totally different from all these other MPs. I mean, these British MPs, man, they need to take a page from this person called Fenner Brockway, because if it wasn't for him, who knows, right? Maybe we'd be still getting beaten up today and abused and battered and all of this stuff, right? Because it was him that pushed the bill for the race discrimination bill, right? Or the Race Discrimination Act, I should say. Yeah, it started off with the bill and obviously it has to be enacted, okay? So, you know, yeah, we have to big up Fenner Brockway, MP, but I'm not taking away from the fact that he's a European, and still we have to distinguish ourselves and differentiate ourselves from saying that, you know, because one European will fight for us, okay, that, you know, somehow white supremacy or institutional racism or prejudice or discrimination is just going to go away. It's not, right? You know, and one white person is not going to come and save us, right? So we're not looking for Jesus Christ to come and save us, because that's not going to happen, right? You see what I'm saying? But, you know, we appreciate that there are good Europeans out there, there's good white people out there, whatever they want to call themselves, that they will defend black people, they will highlight the injustices and things like that. We appreciate these things. But, you know, when it comes to sovereignty and being autonomous and being self-independent, it's a separate thing, right? There's totally separate things, because we got to stand up for ourselves, okay, without other groups of people being involved in our business, just like we cannot get involved in we can't get involved in European business or white people's business. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah? Only if it affects us, right? Then obviously we need to be concerned about the things that they're doing that are going to affect us, right? So anyway, it goes on to say, campaigners including the Society of Labour Lawyers, the Campaign Against Racial Discrimination, Fenner Brockway, MP and other parliamentarians pushed for legislation to make racial discrimination illegal. The Racial Relations Act 1965 attempted to meet the brief by prohibiting racial discrimination in pubs, restaurants, entertainment venues, and public transport services. It also introduced the criminal offence of incitement to racial hatred. However, it did not cover housing and employment, and for British subjects who had been invited to Britain with the promise of employment and opportunity, the lack of accommodation was a real problem. As a result, campaigners felt the legislation was a letdown. Because, we'd always had a problem with housing and jobs. Okay, it says, and it let me see what's saying, okay. Right, all right, so let me just finish reading this, okay, because it's very interesting, right? I'll give you a good scope of the type of atmosphere leading up to what 2000 Windrush Scandal today by the British government. And what we're asking the question is the government institutionally racist, right? It's the verdict's out there. It's up to you. Give us your view. Give us your perspective. Telephone numbers are 07 305 417 668. All right. So it goes on to say in this article, an important UK law on racial discrimination is 50 years old by Rahul Verma, news editor, 27th of November 2018. And it says Race Relations Act 1968 extended to housing. So the Race Relations Act, so basically it came out in 1965. Remember, it started in 1959, maybe even a little bit before that, but it came out in 1959, 1960, the Race Discrimination Bill. Then they came out with the Race Relations Act in 1965, but yet it didn't go far enough. So who says that, this is what I'm saying, who says now that the Race Relations Act, Discrimination Act, and all these different things, the race equality, it goes far enough? Who said it goes far enough? Who said it's where it needs to be? Because maybe there's more things that need to be added onto it. Maybe we need to build on it, right? Anyway, it says the Race Relations Act extended the provisions in the Race Relations Act of 1965 to cover goods, facilities and services, trade union membership, and most significantly, housing accommodation. It also banned advertisement and notices which had the intention to discriminate, such as notorious no blacks, no Irish, no dogs notices. For the Labour government, led by Prime Minister Harold Wilson, which passed the 1968 Act, the legislation was an opportunity to lead by example and establish that people should not be treated differently on the basis of their skin colour. It says, quote unquote, says, what is the bill is concerned with is equal rights, equal responsibilities and equal opportunities, and it is therefore a bill for the whole nation, not just for minority groups. James Callaghan, Home Secretary, April 1968. At the second reading of the bill, James Callaghan, the Home Secretary, stated, we are called upon to lead the country and our fellow men and women away from a prospect of strife and enmity and towards a society in which we shall live in freedom and in peace with each other, no matter what they may be, our race or colour. What the bill is concerned with is equal rights, equal responsibilities and equal opportunity. It is therefore a bill for the whole nation, not just for minority groups. However, it was again felt that the legislation did not extend far enough, which cases of racial discrimination in employment initially being referred to the Department of Employment and Productivity and then to suitable industry machinery. The legislation also failed to meaningfully address racial discrimination in public services. All right. Next paragraph goes on to talk about the legislation led to Enoch Powell's divisive Rivers of Blood speech. It says, on 20th of April 1968, 3 days before the second reading of the Race Relations Bill in the House of Commons, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence Enoch Powell delivered his now notorious Rivers of Blood speech to a close Conservative Association meeting in Birmingham. The key passage in the Powell's diatribe directly references the legislation, and in quotes it says, for these dangerous and divisive elements, the legislation proposed in the Race Relations Bill is a very pabulum food of fodder. They need to flourish. Areas and means of showing that the immigration communities can organise to consolidate their members, to agitate and campaign against their fellow citizens, and to overawe and dominate the rest with illegal weapons which ignorant and ill-formed have provided. And his quote is saying, as I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding, like the Roman, I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood, unquote. I've told Mr. Powell that I consider the speech he made in Burnham yesterday to have been racialist in tone and liable to exacerbate racial tensions. Conservative Party leader Edward Eve, April the 21st, 1968. The next day, the Conservative Party leader Edward Eve dismissed Powell from the shadow cabinet and said, I have told Mr. Powell that I consider the speech he made in Burnham yesterday to have been racialist in tone and liable to exacerbate racial tensions. This is unacceptable from one of the leaders of the Conservative Party. And it goes on to say what has followed. It wasn't until 8 years later and the Racial Discrimination Act 1976 that laws banning discrimination in employment and education was introduced. However, although the Race Relations Act 1976 was considered to be advanced and robust for its time, it did not address racism and racial discrimination by public authorities in fulfilling their public functions. In 1999, the publication of the Macpherson inquiry into the Metropolitan Police investigation of the 1993 murder of black teenager Stephen Norris led to the Race Relations Amendment Act 2000. The move finally extended racial discrimination legislation to cover the police and public authorities. Sir William Macpherson's damning report on the Metropolitan Police botched investigation into Stephen Lawrence's racist murder at a bus stop in Eltham, South East London, found that the police force was institutionally racist. Right? That's their report. Again, the police reporting on themselves, just like the government reporting on themselves. Right? That's not independent. They're reporting on themselves saying that they're institutionally racist. We already know that, some of us. Anyway, it says all of the Race Relations Acts have now been brought under the Equality Act 2010, the Human Rights Act 1998, which incorporated the Human Rights Convention into UK law, also protects against discrimination on the basis of race as well as other characteristics. Although over the last 50 years there has been significant progress in legislation championing equality and providing legal recourse to people experiencing racial discrimination, it's also abundantly clear that racism and racial discrimination is very part of Britain today, which begs the question, what will the UK's racial discrimination laws look like 50 years from now? Yeah, so there you have it once again from the author Rahul Verma. This was published not too long ago, really, 2018 November. All right.
Tune in to Sayshara, the voice for the voiceless on Fafurity Radio, www.fafuritylondon.co.uk. Sayshara, the most topical radio presenter, coming from London, England, live every Sunday, 3 till 6 p.m. Sayshara.
All right, Sayshara's in the house. Okay, Fafurity Radio, tune in live here Sunday afternoon between the hours of 3 6 p.m. Okay, all right. So I think I've covered some stuff. Okay, I just got a few minutes left. Then let's look at the point-based system now. Okay, quickly. All right, and then give you an idea what's that about. Yeah, because I feel like the Conservative government right now, I think they're very extreme on immigration or people migrating and all this stuff, okay? They're very, very extreme. And it's very interesting, this whole point-based system. Some people comparing it to the system in Australia, saying it's similar. Some people say, no, you shouldn't compare it, right? But let's go here, UK to introduce new point-based immigration system. So the UK has left EU this year, and it's going to be a transitional year, and so all rules to still apply until the end of 2020. At the beginning of next year, the country wants to install a new points-based immigration system. So the British government has announced a policy statement published February 19th of 2020 that it will be ending free movement and will introduce an immigration bill to bring in a firm and fair points-based system that will attract the high-skilled workers we need to contribute to our economy, our communities and our public services. The intention is to create a high-wage, high-skilled, high productivity with a big focus on skills. To do that, the government will be making some changes which will come into effect on January 1st, 2021. EU and non-EU citizens will be treated equally for living and working in the UK or require a visa. Overall levels of migration will be reduced. There will be an emphasis on high-skilled migrants. For instance, you get more points if you have a PhD qualification or if you have a highly paid job offer. Border operations will be revolutionized and security will be tightened. There will be no general low-skilled or temporary work route into the UK. That's because the government wants to shift the focus of the economy away from reliance on cheap labour from Europe and instead concentrate on investments in technology and automation. They expect the EU settlement scheme, for which they have already received 3.2 million applications, to provide employers with the flexibility to meet labour market demands. Special emphasis will be placed on attracting scientists, graduates, National Health Service, Public Health Service workers and those in the agricultural sector. The general salary threshold for migrants wishing to work in the UK will be £25,600 per year. The cap on the number of people coming via the skilled worker route will be suspended and the resident labour market tests will be removed. The system will be employer-led. You will need a total of 70 points to apply for the scheme. Okay, so the characteristics here is, I've got a chart of the characteristics, and it says there, offer of job by approved sponsor, you get 20 points for that. Job at appropriate skill level, you get 20 points for that. Speak English at required level, you get 10 points for that. Salary of 20,480 minimum to 23,000 to £23,039, you get no points for that. Salary of 23,040 to 25,599, you get 10 points for that. Salary of 25,000 or above, 20 points. Job in a shortage occupation as designated by the MAC, 20 points. Education qualification, PhD in subject relevant to the job, 10 points. Education qualification, PhD in a STEM subject relevant to the job, 20 points. Okay, so that table is showing the way a prospective immigrant to the UK could accrue points. Right, so to migrate to the UK, you will need to demonstrate a job offer from an approved sponsor. Okay, and I've more or less read all that out again. I'm not going to read that again. So, in a press conference, the UK Home Secretary Interior Minister, Priti Patel, told journalists about the theoretical case of a builder wishing to come to the UK to work. If you have an employer, it could be a construction firm and they meet the skills threshold and the points we showed, then of course, then it can come to the UK to work. It is ridiculous to imply that we're shutting down routes and people can't come in the UK. Best net migration levels are currently more than 200,000 people per year. Numbers have been on a downward trend since a peak in 2016 when the net migration level stood at 336,000 people. The new bill still needs to be passed by the Parliament, but the ruling Conservative Party has a significant majority. Alright? So basically, that's it in a nutshell, really. Okay? You can go online. This article is called it's called UK to introduce new points-based immigration system, published February the 19th, 2020. Okay. Now, there is going to be a lot of issues. The problem I think that I'm looking at this is that they're saying they're looking for high-skilled workers, whatever. Yeah. to me, that don't really make sense because most of the jobs they're going to need are going to be what some people refer to as low-paid workers, not low-skilled, but low-paid workers. Okay, so there's a lot of complaints already from even some of their own people saying that there's going to be a job shortage of vacancies filling some of these jobs because this point-based system, most people are not going to be able to get the 70 points, basically, because you need 70 points or over to be able to get into this country. So they're looking for highly skilled workers and all of this stuff, okay, which is fine, right? They may get it, they may not get it, okay? Depends on the pay structure. And it just throws out all different dynamics and complications, okay? And I think that it's going to take a little while for them to tweak it or to make the system work. It's going to take a lot of issues and problems in the process. A lot of people are going to suffer from it, and only time is going to tell how that's going to pan out. But personally speaking, I think that it's going to cause a lot of problems. This country is not going to fulfill the skills of all new workers. Okay, all new workers jobs just they need to fill in they're struggling right now as it is. Okay, so this is just going to make matters worse, right? And filling those job vacancies. And plus they're saying that a lot of these job vacancies, because what's happened is that when they talk about net migration,
went to Africa and you told the Africans that they must all become Christians, because if they become Christians, when they die, they will go to heaven, because heaven is a wonderful place. Ladies and gentlemen, if heaven was such a good place, do you think white people will tell black people about it? So we came to England with all the expectations of being equal. Here we are in the mother country. The white man can't come to terms with it. And I'll tell you something, as I've said before. If you English people, not white people, if you're not English, you're welcome to stay in England. If you're English and you don't like the way we are running England, please leave.
Okay, Sayshara back here on the set once again. All right, okay. All right, so let me just wrap up on this, then I'm going to move on to my next subject, okay? So, yeah, as I was saying about the net migration, the net migration is the bigger figure, right? So, basically, let me just see if I can just give everyone an idea. So, put everybody in the picture. Just a quick synopsis, okay? Now, after 1945, okay, obviously, you know, all that destruction and chaos during World War II caused a lot of problems, right? So, yeah, government's trying to find ways to rectify it. So what these governments did, they invited people from their colonialist countries, mainly for cheap labor, because what reason would you do it, okay? And basically, you know, this country, England, Great Britain, or what you call the UK, UQ, whatever you want to call it, Britain, they invited our people from the Caribbean and Africa, from the Commonwealth countries specifically, to come here to fill in those job shortages for cleaning services, for building services and industries and transport and all of this stuff, okay? And there was a million shortfall or over a million shortfall of people that they wanted to fill in. They knew what the figures were, right? That's why thousands of people came in from 1948 to the early 70s potentially, okay? So in between that time, we had another migration of people coming from, who were Asians, coming from Uganda, and coming from Kenya because they got kicked out by that government, those governments, okay? So then you had that group of people coming in, and then I think they started looking at the Commonwealth Act and started to tweak it, you know, Immigration Act started to tweak it again, right? And then obviously you got to think about the European Union. When this country joined the European Union, I think it was 73, 71 or whatever, in the 70s there, early 70s, they joined the European Union, which was all about having a free market, free movement and things like that, okay? So then you had another migration of people coming in from Europe, all right, between that time. And then they broadened it out to a lot of the Eastern countries, Eastern European countries, okay, started to migrate here in the 90s and in the 2000s. So what I'm saying is that if you look at net migration, you can't just look at black people alone. You have to look at all these other groups of people. But if you look at the way that this whole Windrush scandal's gone about, it makes us look bad. They make us look like we're criminals and we don't deserve to be here, right? They dismiss that we've contributed and how much we've contributed and stuff like that. They've dismissed all of that, right? And now, so what they've done is made laws to make things difficult. They've made laws to make it harder for our people, okay? They're even bringing laws for people to say that if you commit a criminal act, if you get 12 months and over sentencing, okay, then you have to be deported, okay? And I'll be honest with you, fair enough. You know, they can bring laws in, but 12 months is not a lot, right? I know black people get 12 months for stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? For real stupid, silly stuff. So to me, right, and as you know, the judiciary system acts, and they're clearly institutionally racist. There's no doubt about that, okay, right? That they dish out disproportional sentences, convictions, the whole 9 yards, okay? The whole prison industrial complex is really a real system it's kind of does everything in its power, right? All the different agencies, it does everything in its power to facilitate the whole idea of just imprisoning black people for little or nothing, right? So again, as I was saying about the system, is all about finding different ways to oppress black people. If you're looking at all these laws, again, like I said, you got to look at, if you want to really talk about things, okay, you have to look at the race discrimination laws, right? And if that needs to be updated, yeah, before you can talk about immigration, before you talk about the immigration acts and, you know, Commonwealth acts and British Nationality Acts, all these things are combined, okay, and shown that they're discriminative towards black people, right? And black people seem to get the blunt of it, right? And I think one of the reasons why they get blunt of it, because no one's challenging it. You know what I'm saying? You've got people coming in Parliament, they say whatever they want and do whatever they want, and it goes unchallenged, right? And that's the great problem that's happening there. All right, so let me just look at just cutting off there. One other thing I wanted to say about the whole thing around the points-based immigration, the new immigration point-based system, is that what it was saying is that this was really interesting, really, because in this article it said that Priti Patel claims 8.5 million people could fill workforce gaps created by a new immigration plan. So this was interesting. This is, I think, one of the rationale for getting, for bringing out this point-based system, okay? Because what they're saying, they're looking at the people in this country and they're saying, well, we've got X amount of people, 8.5 million people unemployed, right? So basically, there's no need to worry about labour shortage or employment shortage or anything like that, because there's people here that can be employed. This is what they're saying, right? But then when you look at the figures, the actual figures themselves, you get a whole different story. You get a complete different story, right? And this article breaks it whole down. Okay, so right, so this article breaks it whole down for you. Okay, so just to give you a quick idea, right, how they break down some of these figures. If I can find it, it's not in that one. So, because what they're saying, when they break down all these figures, they talk about 8 million people economically inactive, right? But, you know, they break down all these figures, innit, right? That they can explain why these people, most of them, are not working because, you know, there's different factors that you have to take in consideration, which they didn't really talk about. But they're saying that more than a fifth of the total are not in paid employment, official figures show. Right? But they didn't talk about the students, right? They said that 21.3% of working age adults are now economically active. A category that includes students, the long-term sick, unpaid carers, and those who retire early. Much of the increase came from people opting to study instead of working or seeking work. So it says 78,000 of the inactive were recorded as discouraged workers, people who have simply given up because they do not believe there are any jobs available. The discouraged total rose by 57.9%. So it says a total of 5.7 million inactive people do not want a job. This is what they're saying. All right, so the ONS figures also show a slight fall in unemployment. So the data showed that there were a total of 28 million people in employment, right? So there's 21.22 million people in full-time employment. But there's also 1.41 million people over 65 who are not working, obviously. Right, so there's a lot of people that the figures don't really match up with the 80.5 million because, like I said, a lot of people who are inactive from work are unavailable for various reasons, okay? And, you know, that 8 million figure is just a broad fact around what's going on there. All right, so let me just stop there now, okay? And then what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit. I think I'm done with this whole thing with Windrush. There was one other thing, but I'll cover it next week. I'll just go over the draft, okay? This whole report, all right? But now what I'm going to do, I want to move on from that and talk a little bit about the coronavirus or COVID-19 and let's update what's going on. I know Sister Ebony not too long ago kind of touched on it, right, from her perspective. So I'm interested to know from your perspective how you think or feel about it. All right, so we moved on from talking about the Windrush generation 1948 versus the Windrush Scandal 2018 and the 10-point or the new immigration point-based system. So now we're talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19, and how WHO, WHO, the World Health Organization, has recently announced in public that we're looking at a pandemic, okay, and that what is actually going on? What is actually happening? What is actually taking place? Because I tell you the truth, right? There's so much things going on. You can't really put a finger on it, right? What is actually going on? What do you think is going on? What do you think is happening? Because I know there's dozens and dozens of conspiracy theories, and I'm sure people suspect something was going on. I think that the reason why there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there and a lot of doubt is because people don't trust the governments. They don't trust what governments are saying. And there's a mistrust there that's been happening for quite some time. Now, it's interesting to me that we know there's man-made biological weapons. We know, a lot of us know about that. That's nothing new. There's a long list of different viruses that's been coming up recently. You notice that there's more viruses. I mean, with all this technology, because now we've moved on from the industrial age, right? I would imagine we've moved on from the industrial revolution, right? To now we're in the technological age. We should be living in an environment that's much more cleaner, much more healthier, much more enriched in us, where we should be living a longer life, okay? We've got all this technology and all this science and innovations. We've got new inventions and all this stuff to make life better, to make this world a better place. But is it? And so you've got governments and scientists and the mainstream media teaming up together on this thing called COVID-19. And they're all spinning a similar narrative. And, they're all saying the same things, generally speaking, okay? Let me see if I can get this call and we'll get a different view on this. Sayshara Interactive. Good evening, good afternoon. Hold on. Yeah, carry on talking. Hold on. Yeah, carry on talking. Can't hear you. No. Okay. Yeah. All right. What about the call? Jumbo, you still there? Can't hear you. Oh, there's that one. All right, Jumbo, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jumbo, brother, I can hear you.
Yeah,
clearly,
sorry about
nice
that.
and clear.
Yeah.
No problem, brother. No problem. Smack one, yeah?
Good to
Yeah,
hear
just
from you.
chiming on this this coronavirus situation, which is going crazy. A lot of panic buying going on.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are, just all over the place.
Yeah.
I do think it's a man-made virus, to be honest.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, and there have been quite
what
a
do you
few.
think can happen going forward?
Yeah. I mean, just look at this whole thing around the biological weapons and man-made viruses and stuff like that, because a lot of people try to dismiss this, right? But,
yes.
But you notice that the last few years there have been quite a few virus outbreaks, and
that's right.
There's been so many. That
the last one was SARS, right? SARS epidemic.
Well, there was.
remember?
Yeah, there was a
Came out of China.
Yeah, But I'm not just talking about epidemics. I'm talking about just any old virus.
Okay.
Because I think the last one was Ebola.
Oh, Ebola. Okay, yes, of course.
It could be the Ebola, and then there's others. Zika.
No, I'm talking about the one I'm talking about the previous one that came out of China.
Yeah, that was
the SARS.
Yeah, the SARS.
China, wasn't it? SARS, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And then now we've got this. We had the one in Africa, Ebola, which has suddenly disappeared, and now we've got this one.
Mm.
But if you think back, there was a movie that I saw the other day. My brother sent it to me. It came out in 2011, and it's called Contagious. Is it Contagious? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, basically, well, it mentions the same pandemic and it coming out of China.
Yeah.
And there's another one called the Flu movie in 2013, which came, and same thing.
Yeah.
So this is all by design. You can call it predictive programming. You know, all these movies and stuff.
Yeah.
You also got it was the Bart Simpson. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Simpsons cartoons.
No, I'm not really a Simpson person, generally.
Okay, but it mentions the virus in there as well, coming out of China.
Yeah.
So, you know, these people are psychopaths, you know. You know, they put it all in their movies, you know, what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So the agenda is there. Also, now, obviously, they're looking at lockdowns now, aren't they?
Yeah.
They started the lockdown in China, and then it went to Italy, France, and now the UK is coming up.
Yeah, that's to do with the containment. Yeah, containment. They want to contain it. Yeah, so they say.
They're trying to contain it. Yes, yes, but it kind of got out of hand already, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. So, I mean, do you think this country's doing enough in terms of containing it? Because
no, really, I don't know. They're not. But that's by design, isn't it? They want it to get out of hand.
Yeah, it's
so they can bring in martial law, right?
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Martial law and curfews and yeah, it seems like it's going that way, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's all part of that Agenda 21 that they've been working on for so long. Agenda 21 to 30, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously they need to reduce the population. That's their plan. Okay. So,
I know, but where is that coming from? Is that coming from the United Nations?
Sorry?
This whole thing around the idea, I don't think it's just the United Nations because...
No, I mean, if you go on the UN website, basically you can actually look at the Agenda 21 to 30 document.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a 365-page document that basically explains the details of their plans going forward for the world. Yeah, and that includes reduced populations, sustainable development, climate change, artificial intelligence, all you know, a lot of things are in that document.
Taking back land and all of this stuff.
Yeah, taking back land from the people, so you won't be able to own any public, private land. And
pushing
like
people
that.
into
In smart cities.
Yeah.
Put everybody in smart cities as well.
Yeah.
After they reduce the population, so everything is just by design.
But going back to
and everything's just coming into place now.
Just to clarify, because I don't want people to think that we're conspiracy nuts, okay? That
no, but we can't be conspiracy nuts, right?
No, but let me just finish this.
Basically, it's on the UN website for
Yeah,
you to read.
But let me just say this.
You can't be conspiracy nutter, can you?
No, but let me say this. I'm just saying this just clarify, okay?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
You know, this whole thing about depopulation or reducing the population or culling and stuff like that, it's not a new idea. And if people want to really go back even further than the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
We could talk about scientific racism or you could talk about eugenics, right? Because
eugenics, right.
Scientific racism and eugenics are like intertwined into this whole thing around depopulating like one group of people, right? Which was black people, black African people, right? It was about really experimenting on black people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, using black people to do these experiments and stuff like that.
That's right.
So this thing around about, even the German, if you want to talk about concentration camps and experimenting and stuff like that, you can go back to Germany before World War One, where they was doing things on black people in Namibia in Africa. Right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about something that's new here, right? But going forward, as you were saying about this whole thing about the United Nations, really sustainable development, New World Order agenda.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's now been enacted, isn't it, onto the people, right? It's a war against the people.
Yeah.
You know, so basically, you know, but people don't seem to realise that. I try to tell people that I know, and they just look at me like I'm mad. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about, but they're soon going to realise themselves. I mean, even today they were saying that, you know, the elderly, like over 70, right? They're not allowed to come out of their house for over 4 months.
Wow.
They're in 4 months lockdown. I mean, this is extreme. This is what the government said they might be bringing in next week. I mean, this is absolute madness. And another thing as well, right? If you look at the previous flus or whatever, pandemics, okay? If you look at it from 1720, right? 1720, there've been different type of pandemics. So 1720 there was something. 1820 there was something else. I think 1920 was Spanish flu. And then obviously 2020 is this coronavirus. It was a bit of a coincidence.
Well,
I can't remember the other two.
No, there's been loads of different virus outbreaks, but like I said, there's different endemics, okay, or pandemics.
How come it keeps happening every 100 years? It's a bit of a, it's a bit strange.
Yeah. I mean, recently there's been a flourish of different outbreaks because, like I said, we talked about Ebola. We know that was a patent. They made a patent for that, right? We exposed that. That we know that the US scientists, and we need to talk about mad scientists working with mad governments. You know what I mean? Remember there was a time that people used to say, because there is some mad scientists out there, not all of them, you know what I'm saying? But you got these mad scientists, right? They got to find ways to do things, innit? Right? They're just trying to break all kinds of, laws, practices, and stuff like that. They're trying to just break the barriers, right? Limitations. Do you know what I'm saying? They're trying to invent things, innit? They want to make a name for themselves and things like that. So you got these mad scientists, right? But I think there's a problem where you got these governments, okay?
Yeah, but you have to ask yourself, who do these mad scientists work for?
Well, exactly, right?
Work for the same people, don't they?
Yeah, and then we're meant to trust these scientists with our lives.
Exactly.
Right.
But a lot of people do. That's the thing. They do trust them. They trust them with their lives.
Well, yeah, and they're saying that. Well, one of the things that they've been saying, they're coming out with, they want you to trust the government based on scientific facts, right? But I mean, like I said, there's a mistrust of governments. Why there's a lot of different theories out there. Why people don't trust governments. Like you mentioned about the panic buying.
Well, a lot do though. I mean, a lot do. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and they actually do. They trust them.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the actual, if you were to get it, I mean, people are saying, "Oh, it's just the 70s, over 70s, the 80s." Obviously, old people are going to get it, and not the young people. But that's rubbish because I've been watching it from when it was in China. and young people are dying from it. So that's a complete lie. But the media will they've obviously got their agenda, and they're working with the government.
Well, listen to this then, yeah. Listen to this, yeah. I got a theory. Yeah. And I've kind of looked at this theory, and I thought, you know what? Every day they've been banging on about this coronavirus. Every day, every hour, radio, TV, cable, satellite, whatever, right? It's been banged out, yeah. So then, obviously, that in some sense is some form of programming, subliminal predictive programming, because what I'm saying? It's like you keep on saying it enough times, you will convince people to think,
scaremongering people, right?
It's a phobia, right? That you're actually making people alarmists, okay? So you're putting this psychological effect on them. So now, obviously, you're going to get people that's going to get some symptoms or slight symptoms that they may think are the symptoms of a coronavirus, okay? Right? So it's creating this kind of psychological effect, right? Phobia, like people's becoming more paranoid, right? But is there any evidence for this stuff though, isn't it? Where is the evidence for this? Because what I'm saying, if you say it enough times, people will believe it, right? So people thinking, well, I've got coronavirus now, innit? So I need to self-contain. When you self-contain now, what happens to that? Yeah, then you know what I'm saying. It just throws out so many different things.
Remember, brother, these people are the masters of deception, right? They've been studying this for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, they know how to fool the public.
Yeah.
People go along with things, and don't even question it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. They're like sheep,
Yeah.
Sheep to the short slaughter, really, when you think about it, brother. You try to wake people up, but, they're not going to hear me. They'd rather listen to the officials, so-called officials. They've got really bad intentions for them, So, we're in dangerous times right now.
Well, I'm thinking about the next few weeks, because look, right, they're saying it's a pandemic. What are we supposed to do? Sit down in our houses now, innit? Right? And not go anywhere and not doing anything, yeah?
That's what they want.
They're bringing out martial law, curfews, restrictions. I think Africa, let's look at this country, right? Let's look at this country, right? Because, we talked about...
Sorry to interrupt you, brother. One thing they did say as well, they said that if inmates in prisons, right, get the coronavirus, they have to let them out. Let them out early.
Yeah, I forget what country they did that. I can't remember. I think it was in Iran. In Iran, they let out, I think, 700 prisoners. Don't quote me on this. But in Iran, they let out 700 odd prisoners. They just let out prisoners. Okay?
And rapists. And
it could be more. It could be more. I don't know, right? But they let out a load of prisoners for whatever reasons, okay? So it's throwing out a whole load of different issues with this thing. It's like...
Well, this is engineered anarchy. That's what they want.
Well, what I'm asking the question is that it's affecting the economy, it's affecting businesses, it's affecting people's livelihood, worker circumstances.
That's what they want. They want to crash the system, brother. That's what it is.
Well, let's look at it then. Let's look at it for a minute, yeah? This started in December. Yeah. We're in March, right? How long is this going to go on for? How long before? Because to me, I think the system is crashing, right? Because nothing's running. No business is running. Okay, but then so it's designed, right? So let's look at what is going to be the outcome. What's going to happen? What do we think is going to happen if this continues like this? Because remember now, it's affecting businesses all around the world. I think recently Africa, some of the African countries have refused flights coming in from Europe and different places now. They've stopped it, yeah? This country...
Okay, what the outcome
let me just say this, yeah? Let me just say this, yeah? Because I want to know, why is this country different from other countries? Because remember, Donald Trump recently decided to put a ban out, but he only said he'll ban all the European countries, but not England, right? Which I find funny, yeah? But this country is not even really talking about banning flights or anything like that. So why is this country so open? I don't understand what's going on. Why are some countries more restricted, and why is this country more open?
They want a lot of people to be infected, right?
Right.
So they can bring in these vaccines. Because that's what they've been working on these vaccines for so long. I mean, it's not really the coronavirus that's going to kill people. It's the vaccines, brother. You know, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to take those vaccines. I've talked to people about it already, and they're saying, yeah, they're willing to take it. Some people.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem, you know. So people are so dumbed down. I mean, they're just... What do you think, brother? What do you think?
Well, there's so many things going on here. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Because of freedom of speech or expression, and you know they.
But you agree there's a project of population reduction, right?
Well,
that's their goal. Right?
I call it the four.
Yeah. Population.
The 4 Ps. Okay, plan.
Yeah.
Under the planning, whatever plans they always planning things. We're talking about we're talking about the ruling class, the elite, the people, the secret societies who do things behind the scenes. Okay, they're actually, because you got people. Remember now, you got people that's got trillions and trillions of dollars. Okay, a lot of these you know, entities, they got money like sense. Okay, right? They ain't got nothing better to do with their time than manipulate the system in different ways and different forms. Okay, they have to they got nothing better to do, right? So they have to find ways to, you know, cause friction or to cause chaos or to cause a distraction. Now, one of the things that people are saying is that, is this a cover for another something else that's going on? Is this a cover for something else going on? That the coronavirus could be a distraction? Or
Do you think there's any links to this coronavirus, to this 5G and this Wi-Fi?
I mean, anything's possible, but
people sick. Do you think there's anything?
We have to
because
really.
I know that the cruise ships, right? A lot of the people on those cruise ships got sick, and that was because a lot of them had 5G technology. So I'm thinking to myself, there might be a connection with that. You know.
Well,
it's important to know.
There is a lot of kind of suppression on 5G information, right? And that the governments are not being honest about this at all. They're not being honest, okay? Because anything new needs to be properly tested. Any invention or innovation that could affect people's lives, okay, needs to be properly trialed and tested, okay, needs to go through scientific testing and stuff like that. And from what I understand, and the information is out there about 5G, they haven't done proper trials and testing on this. So if they're rolling it out already without trials and testing, okay, then, you know, we don't know, a lot of people don't know what the effects are and how people could be affected and you know, in the sense that people are actually getting killed. Or dying.
Well, 38 MPs tried to protest against the government, and they were voted down. That was this week or last week or whatever.
What's that for? So, 5? You know, for bringing in 5G.
Over the 5G thing. Being introduced, and obviously.
I don't know what's wrong with this government. The British government. I think the MPs, man, they must be all dumb, innit? Right? Because you cannot tell me, right, that something new like 5G, which is going to emit tons and tons of radiation.
Right, that's what it's designed to do, to kill people, right?
It's got tons and tons of radiation, right? And you're telling me that they're going to allow this thing. There's not one country that's refused it. There must be a country that's refused it.
Well, apparently, I mean, if you look at the 5G, it was rolled out last year in Wuhan, in China. Where the outbreak first came from. So, and then obviously now you've got this disaster. So I'm thinking whether it's connected to the actual 5G that's been introduced onto the people. You know, you have to think, you know, but, you know, it's just, we don't know. We don't know.
It's difficult.
I'm still investigating the whole thing myself.
Yeah, but it's been a while now, and I don't think anybody's cracked this one really. to identify where the source is coming from, if this virus thing is real or it's, you know what I'm saying. We know that there's many viruses. We know that viruses, biological weapons, that's been around, you know, and some of these things have been made up in laboratories. Okay, they use mosquitoes, for example.
Another thing, how do we know that these people that are dying from coronavirus are actually dying from coronavirus?
Yeah, we don't. That's the thing.
And stuff like that. You can't trust this government.
No, what? So what they're saying is that we have to trust them, we have to trust what they're saying. But you know, I think what we need to do is how can we prove what they're saying is true, right? We can't. I mean, we've got scientists saying all kinds of things, but they are running with the mainstream government.
Exactly.
Right, getting paid.
Exactly, getting paid to talk. Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, remember they was talking about it was all about global warming and climate change. Now it's all about the coronavirus, right?
Exactly.
And then
exactly.
You know,
they're saying that you're going to be prepared. That's what Boris Johnson said. Be prepared to lose loved ones. I mean, what is the overall plan? You know, you have to wonder. Because maybe it's not the coronavirus that's going to kill you. Maybe they've got some other sinister plan up their sleeve.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, they're already talking about they're going to be rolling out the army and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what they're planning to do. I mean, I don't want to scare people, man. I don't want to scare people, but everything just seems so apocalyptic at the moment, brother. You know, you go to the shop, you know, people, you know, you can't even, I mean, all the toilet rolls gone. Hand sanitizer, you know, food is short now. You know, I went to my local Tesco and shops. Everything's empty, practically. Everything's gone. You know, it's everybody. I mean, you see cars and carloads of people, you know, trying to get the last stuff. You know, it's like the last days, brother.
Mm.
You know, so something big's going to happen. I don't know if our people are prepared for it. You know,
well,
we need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
in this article here, March the 10th, it says coronavirus study identifies gain of function for efficient spread in humans. Similar to what you were saying, it says coronavirus scientists have identified a gain of function in the virus, which has allowed for the efficient spread in humans. A bombshell study revealed. Just let me read just a few lines here. It says COVID-19 has now affected nearly 120,000 people, killing more than 4,000. It's over 5,000.
Well, that's a lie for a start. That's a lie. Because if you look at Wuhan itself, right? Wuhan itself had over 11 million people. Okay, and basically they were saying, obviously things that leaked out. They said that the crematorians were 24 hours a day burning bodies. So I don't know what they're talking about. That's a complete lie. It's more than that. I mean, especially in China alone, there's probably over 1 million dead in China.
Wow.
Well over that.
Wow.
But obviously, you know, they're getting their data from the CCP, right? So obviously they're not going to tell them the truth, are they?
Right. So it goes on to say that in the process of devastating outbreak, which has now been declared a pandemic, Italy has been placed on lockdown as the infection spreads through Italy.
Oh, Italy, yeah.
Spreads through Europe at an alarming rate. Now, let me just read this last sentence. It says a study released by Chinese scientists earlier this month found the origin of coronavirus could have come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This is what they're saying. And at a level 4 biosafety laboratory, 12 kilometers from the epicenter
so
of the outbreak.
They're made it now. So they've actually moved from bats. Because remember they said it was bats from the beginning, wasn't it? They said bats.
Yeah.
It came from bats and food. What do you call it? From the
wild animals,
market,
yeah.
Yeah, wild animals, eating wild animals. But now is they're trying to, they're talking about it comes from the lab.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So now they're saying there's.
Why do you think they changed from that position? Why do you think that, brother?
I don't know, because I know that there's been a tit for tat with America.
Okay.
propaganda, disinformation between the two.
Yeah.
Right. But it goes on to say that now a new investigation titled Coronavirus 2019 nCoV contains a furin-like cleavage site absent in COV of the same clad, suggests it is unlikely anything seen before. And this was published on Science Direct this month. The paper reads, in 2019, a new coronavirus infecting human has emerged in Wuhan, China.
Wuhan, China, yeah.
Right? And then it says its genome has been sequenced and the genomic information promptly released. Right? So they're saying, despite a high similarity with the genome sequence of SARS, COVID-19, we identified a peculiar furin-like cleavage site of the 2019 nCoV, lacking in the other SARS-like CoVs. Okay? So they're saying it's something similar. Yeah. The SARS is similar, but it's just, I think it's just a stronger strain to, it's a...
I think they've got different strains of the actual COVID-19.
Yeah.
They've got different strains.
Yeah.
For different populations.
So let's look at this then. Let's look at it this way, right? The whole...
I believe, right, sorry. I believe that the Americans and the Chinese are working together. Because I know Bill Gates did kind of talk about a pandemic last year at one of his, what was it? It was like an event. And he mentioned about, a pandemic happening, all over the world. So, I mean, the clues are there. There's clues all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on anyway.
No, what I was thinking is that I'm just thinking out loud now, yeah? I was thinking, well, let's look at this whole planet Earth. It's like a laboratory, right?
Yeah.
And that we are the subjects that they're experimenting with. The whole thing around planning, projects, program, and PSYOPs. PSYOPs, experimentation. And I think, like, in some ways, it's like the way the system works, they'll get one stone that can kill 3-4 birds. It's going to be doing different things here all at the same time. Right? That's why it's difficult to work out exactly what's actually going on, because it's more than one agenda going on behind the scenes, right? So what are they bringing in? Are they bringing in martial law? Are they bringing in more laws? You know what I'm saying? Are they creating a vaccine? Are they looking to sell new vaccines?
Right, but I mean, they're already talking about vaccines, so that's what the agenda is. And what they will do, they're going to force vaccines on people. Yeah?
Mm.
So, but if you don't take the vaccine, they'll lock you up or something like that.
Yeah. I think
I'm not taking no vaccine.
Yeah. I
kill
think
me.
one of the things
So
they
I'm
was
not taking
talking about is mandatory. Yeah, taking the vaccines and making it mandatory. Right.
Right.
And I think going back to what you said about they want everybody to contact coronavirus so that they can give everybody a vaccine to prevent them from getting the vaccine and to getting them to getting the coronavirus, similar to the flu virus or the flu vaccine.
They call it herd.
Which sounds crazy to me.
Yeah.
It sounds nuts.
Immunity.
It sounds bonkers.
Herd immunity. Yeah, it's like something out of the Nazis, isn't it? Like the Nazis program.
Mm.
It's definitely eugenics, isn't it? Something, they've got some real sinister plan to cull off the population, isn't it?
Mm.
And that's probably going to be achieved by these vaccines. It's not really going to be the coronavirus alone. Coronavirus can't kill everybody.
No.
It's the vaccines that'll kill people,
Yeah.
especially if it's mandatory.
So do you think they could be looking for something like this? Could be just an experiment, right? But it's like it might not be the smoking gun, but it could be something leading up to the smoking gun, right?
Could be, but
you know,
they
do you know what I'm saying? Because
I'm not sure. I mean, they're locking down cities now, so they're taking it to the next level now.
Yeah, but how far is this going to go? Because it's been 3 months now, isn't it? This is the third month, right? What's going to happen in another 3 months? Because at some point, everything's going to stop, isn't it? Everything's going to stop.
Things up before 2021, I guess. That's what they're doing now. Speeding everything up,
Because look,
to get their agenda. Because obviously they got this 2020. They've got a time window between 2020 and 2030. So, I'm basically going by UN, documents.
yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
sustainable development.
Yeah, that's very real. That is. That's very real. That
It's very real, brother. I mean, it's in your face, but people just can't be bothered to read it. I advise people that listen to your show to look at, the Agenda 2130. You can find it on the UN website. It's important how people read that, and then you can understand what's at play here.
Yeah. So.
You know what I'm saying, brother?
So what? Right, let's go back to this country now. Okay, in this country,
yeah.
And we talked about what is the British government. In fact, people satisfied with the British government in the way they're dealing with this situation.
They're satisfied now because they haven't been. They're not under lockdown.
Yeah.
When they're under lockdown, it's going to be a completely different story, my friend.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of desperate people out there.
So,
for sure.
So are they doing enough then? Because they're talking about, they're still talking about people can still mingle around and big crowds and just carry on like normal, but obviously keep yourself clean and all of this stuff, right? But they're not stopping. Are they stopping the spread of it or containing it? How are they containing it? Is it sufficient or not? Because they're still allowing people to go out in and out of the country. They haven't put any bans on.
And schools as well. They're still allowing schools to operate.
Who?
They're still allowing schools to operate. They're not closing down schools,
nothing's. What's changed from being the endemic to the pandemic? I don't see anything change in this country. Other countries have changed.
Not yet, but it's going to come in. It's like they put it in stages.
If you listen to Boris Johnson, right, we should be alarmed.
I'm very alarmed. Very scary.
You know what I mean?
Very scary.
We should be alarmed by what he's saying because they're saying that it's going to. What they said it's so alarming as well that it's going to get worse.
Yeah,
why are they saying it's going to get worse?
People are going to lose their loved ones. I mean, people are not prepared for that.
Well,
they're not prepared to lose their loved ones.
But why would the government say that it's going to get worse? Why would the leader of the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson, say it's going to get worse rather than saying, "No, we've got it under control"?
It's going to get worse. That means they've got some kind of agenda to make it worse.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like to me, it sounds blasé to me. Like, well, it's going to get worse.
Blasé.
Well, if it's well, they got everything. I mean, other countries are doing things, and it seems like, oh, well, it's going to get worse. What are you talking about? In China, I don't know. It sounds really weird, but Europe is worse. It's getting more prevalent in Europe more than in China, and it's supposed to have come from China, right?
No, but China. I tell you something, right? The things that a lot of stuff is not being reported of what's going on in China. They were welding people out in their house, in their flats. Okay, and a lot of people can't get food and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's a communist country, so there's different rules there. Imagine it happening here, people being welded in their flats and they can't come out.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Can't come out. Starve to death. I mean, that's the shit that they're doing out there. So, you've got to be careful what you wish for, but at the same time, we don't even know if this is really coronavirus or it's just something else. And it's using coronavirus as a cover, isn't it?
Yeah. We don't know because, and the reason why we can say that is because they said it's similar. It's got similarities to a flu or influenza, right?
Exactly.
So some people could be misdiagnosed for having a flu, but then they compare it to the coronavirus. Do you get what I'm saying? So
that's the worrying thing now, brother. I mean, you can't really go to the doctor if you've got a cough or whatever because you think to yourself, well, if I go there, they might just quarantine me and then basically put their vaccines into me.
Yeah, and the vaccines they're using at the moment they're using similar vaccines for things like Ebola that they would use for Ebola or for SARS, or they're using a cocktail of different things. They're actually experimenting, but they can't say they're coming out with a vaccine yet, because vaccine, maybe they have got one already, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
people got to be careful, man.
you know,
Be careful.
the vaccine is going to take a long time to come out, because it's it's got to be tried and tested, and it takes 6 months, 18 months.
On who? On who?
Well, somebody's going to get paid for it, and they'll do it, innit? If you get paid, people do it. I'm going to do it. I wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying people will do the testing. Maybe
I can assure you that's what's going to kill majority of the people.
Yeah.
Going to be the forced vaccines.
It's difficult to,
especially if they make monetary.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. You know, they don't want to cure you. They created this thing.
Yeah.
They ain't going to want to cure you, are they? Just
No.
like Ebola. You know, and other stuff that they created.
Yeah.
You know, we're dealing with some really evil people, and people don't realize that.
Yeah.
You know, they think they can still trust governments and whatever.